Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 14th of April 2020. I was about to do a video yesterday, but homeschooling got in the way, and so I had to do a premature abort. So back today, and let's get to the charts. I'm going to do an analysis of the Australian dollar, American dollar for a friend, and I'm going to kind of take a deep dive, and then I'm going to kind of have a look at some other things. So let's start here on the Aussie American dollar. Let's remove this so we have lots of chart space. Go to the monthly chart. If we look here, you'll notice that price is very low. So what I'm doing in a situation like this is I'm looking for a place that was respected historically, both below price and above price, and then I want to see what these areas manage to accomplish. So if I just look for, first of all, a nice rejection of an area, and if we have a look at some potential rejections, you can see that we had a big rejection here, okay, and we had a rejection here. The problem is this one here, I can't see what happened further to the left, but this one here is looking pretty good, so I'm going to focus on that. So having a look at this, you can see that price managed to move all the way down to this price level here, and then turn around and move above these highs here. So I'm guessing that there's supply further to the left. When I use the term supply and demand, there isn't really supply or demand of in currencies. There's liquidity available, okay, and so there are people who are looking to engage in the market at specific price windows of opportunity. Okay, so there's not really a sense of supply and demand in the market. So just so you understand the terminology. But we had price return to this price level here, which was attractive, and then you can see that we had some people that were looking to engage in the market at this price level to sell, and this drove the price of the Australian dollar, American dollar lower. And so you ask yourself, well, what did price react at? So what we'll do initially is we'll mark off the low, because this will help us find historical areas of demand or bullish liquidity that was able to reject price. So if we just mark this little one off here, you can see we had a green candle, white candle, green candle, and so I'll just mark that area off here. And so we have this here, price poked into it, and then we left. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is telling us that we have an enormous interest in buying Australian dollars with American dollars at the 60.77 area to the 57.70. So we have about a 100 pip price window there. Sorry, a 300 pip price window. Okay, so there's a big keen interest on getting ourselves involved at this price level. But notice here, later price came here. We started to approach this area of child demand here. We tested it once, twice. We distributed just above the area, and then we cut through the child and the parent. And this is a child because this was established as a result of the presence of this area of parent demand, okay? Bullish liquidity. So price cut through it. We did not manage to trade below it, but we certainly managed to attract some buyers at these very attractive low prices on the Australian dollar. So let's assume that we have a recession occurring in Australia. We have an Australian who's holding American dollars, and they're looking to buy a house with Australian dollars. So they have American dollars, so they're waiting for the price of Australian dollars relative to the American dollars to drop to a very low level, and at that point they'll convert their American dollars to Australian dollars and then use the Australian dollars to buy a house, okay, or to buy a business, or to buy any big price tag item, okay. And so you can see price poked down here, and then there was a pretty keen interest on buying Australian dollars with American dollars, and you can see that very clearly here. This is a monthly chart, so we have some serious flows moving lower, but we also saw equally big flows moving to the upside as price moved to the opposite side of this area of bullish liquidity. So a really interesting sign this, and this is just a sign that we've reached a very, very low point, and prices have not been this low since 2008, so just after the recession kind of kicked in there, September, and now we've actually gone below that point, and now we've poked into this area here, and we've seen a huge influx of American dollars in exchange for Australian dollars, and this is what we're seeing just here at bleeding edge price. Okay, and now to the upside, we want to look for something similar. And so you want to find an area of demand that was responsible for doing something major. And if you see here, we had this area just here that was reacting at some bearish liquidity here. Price poked up to it and then it disappeared very quickly. So this is gone. Okay, this is gone. We'll mark it off. This has been removed. It was tested once, twice, but now it's gone. So now ask yourself the question, what area of bullish liquidity removed this? And so we can say that we have a couple of things going on here. We have this. Okay, so this is the origin of the move that moved above here, but also notice that we do have this just here. And the reason I'm choosing this one and this one is because this is just a nice pattern. We have the Pipnotic software showing us where we had an accumulation of long orders, so orders to buy Australian dollar with American dollars at this level here that was strong enough to move above this high. And this here, I mean, price managed to move higher. We had the slingshot that was pulled back, and this is the origin of the move that moved above this high. Okay, and so then you ask yourself the question, well, what areas were able to remove this one and this one? Well, this one was removed by, you can notice here, this one didn't get to it, this one got through it, we went up, we came down, we moved sideways, and then we cut lower. So we have a couple of areas on this chart. So we have this one here. Okay, so that's an interesting area. And on the weekly chart, well, the software found that we have this area here, and this is actually the one that's responsible for removing this area of bullish liquidity. Then we had this one just here, which was cut away, as you can see. But notice that price returned to this price level once, twice, three times. So that's telling us that we have something above price. You can't see it on the monthly chart, but you'll certainly see it on the weekly chart, as we'll see in just a second. So I'm going to mark that one off, something like that. Okay, and this is holding price, and below price we have this here. So price is digging down, and so the question is, well, where's price going to go now? Well, my expectation is that price is going to continue to wriggle higher for a little while, not long term, but medium term to short term, because price was at this very low price for Australian dollars. So there was a bargain to buy Australian dollars at this price point, and as you can see, we've just seen a very nice rejection. So price may move higher, we may revisit these lows, but I'm thinking that price is going to wriggle higher in order to attract some sellers of the Australian dollar as people move back into American dollars. So if we have a look here on the weekly chart, yeah, you can see this is that monthly area that we noted. The software found it beautifully. It's marked off as a weekly area. Price came down. We moved sideways for a moment, so distribution. Price came back up, and then we left. We visited it once, twice, three times, four times, each time going a little bit deeper. So the pancake analogy is, this is the cheapest price you want to pay. Okay, so it says the 81, about the 81.50 area, and now price is moving higher. But notice here as well, the price poked into this weekly area of demand. So if we move sideways and have a look at that, you can see that this is what it looks like. Okay, and so you might look at this and think, well, that doesn't really look like an area, and so you'd think, well, why on earth did the software mark this one off? Well, note that number one, it did mark it off, and number two, this is exactly where price stopped. Okay, so the algo for finding these areas is pretty remarkable. Okay, so let's look at where prices can potentially going to move to. Well, notice here that on this price chart, we have some price levels roughly here. So let's have a look here. And so note as well that we have price moving higher, accumulating, moving higher, challenging these highs, and then leaving. So we've got something here. I'm going to move that. We've got that there. Tested, and now it's gone. And so now you ask yourself the question, what area managed to remove this weekly bearish liquidity? You can see how price kind of went through it, but note as well that, I mean, price did not manage to trade below it until it returned to roughly this area here. So I'm guessing, if we have a look at this, once price manages to move back up into this area here, we're probably going to attract some shorter term sellers. It'll drive price lower, and as price moves lower, we're probably going to see price kind of move back to re-challenge these lows, and then maybe onboard some buyers. It'll drive the Australian dollar a little bit higher. Okay, so let's have a look on the daily chart, see if we can have a look inside this just here, and we can see pretty clearly here, and the software has found this nicely for us again. Let me remove the strength histogram, and if we look here, you can see that we do have a couple of areas that are noteworthy. First of all, we have this one here and this one here, so we have a couple of areas. I'm just going to remove the software, so we have to do all of this stuff by ourselves. So I'm going to turn the analysis off. Okay, so then we have this here. We've got this here, and we also have, price came down. We have the really strong move. The slingshot was pulled back to this area, and then we left. And so something is telling us that we've got something here. So you have a couple of areas to watch. When price gets to the 66.80 area, we're probably going to see, we're probably going to get some bounces. And when price moves up to here, we're probably going to get some more bounces. Okay, and how long these bounces last, we don't really know. But looking at the way price disappeared from this area, we can expect some kind of a bounce. But this also depends on the health of the economy. We can see now that Madrid, they're starting to open workplaces. They're putting 300,000 people back to work. Denmark is opening the schools starting from the 15th of this week. So slowly but surely we're seeing people begin to open institutions up, workplaces up, and this of course is going to affect the economy as people are going to begin to earn money once more. Okay, this has a massive influence on what's going on. So if we have a look here, we can see these areas all over the place. We scroll back, there's nothing really in here. We do have something here. Okay, we have something here. Okay, which has been tested once. This one was almost tested. But if we continue to move left, there's nothing really here until we get back to here. Got something here. And we have a couple of other things here. I think this is a decent area. These are very crudely marked off. Okay, this is interesting because price went up, we came back, slingshot was pulled back, release. This price came up here, then release. We have not been back, so we have a couple of areas to watch, and these are lining up just below this area of monthly supply, as you can see just here. And above that, we've got this one here, and within that we have, first of all, mark off the highs. Where did price return to? Why is this important? Because this is essentially where price is cleaning out liquidity. We're flushing liquidity, and so I would expect price to move to this level and higher before moving lower once again. So we have something, we just mark off this whole area. We've got something from about here, okay, on the daily chart. This is where price returned to, and this is where price released from. Moving higher yet, we have some lows. We have something in here. Just so you can see test. This has been removed. What area did it? Or something up here did. So we've got something just up here. I'm just marking these off very crudely, okay, just so you get an idea of where they are. You can go in and analyze these yourself. So if we look back at the weekly chart, this one here is gone. This one here is gone, but price will likely move back up and test this area again once it returns to this price level, and within that we have these two daily areas here. So we'll probably see this move lower once again, and then maybe challenge these lows before it figures out what it's going to do. Okay, so very interesting. I like this area up here very much. It's a gorgeous area, and we do have a couple of areas up here as well. On the daily chart, we've got this kind of this area here, which is interesting. So we have a few areas that we can watch. You can take a screenshot of this chart here, and you can watch this for future reference. Okay, so that's what we have. So, if we look at the strength information, that's showing us an awful lot of information. Okay, we are seeing that, this high up here was shown as being kind of a false high because of what we can see on the currency strength information. So you can see that price is going higher, but the strength of these currencies was not supporting this. So you can see that the Australian dollar was being pushed higher, but the strength of the Australian dollar was remaining flat, in contrast to the American dollar, which was moving higher, which is what drew this currency pair lower. Because remember, currency pairs trade as pairs. You can't trade a currency by itself. You have to trade a currency relative to another currency. And here we have the Australian dollar, American dollar. And so the direction of a currency pair is going to be dependent on the strength of the individual currencies traded in that pair. Okay, so here you can see very clearly that price is going to move down based on what you could see in this little structure here in the currency strength histogram. Okay, so this is a very important information, and so you could already see that this was going to happen from around here. You can see that price was moving high. We formed this high, we formed this low here, we formed this high here, and already from here you could see that this was false. Pushes higher. Let me get that back on that. So you can see that price was, the strength of the dollar was picking up relative to the Australian dollar in the face of higher prices here. And then things moved sideways. Then we had a huge cutaway, which was the sign that this was going to see this currency pair move lower. Okay, and currently what are we doing? Well, we are seeing a weakening Australian dollar, and we're seeing a flat American dollar. So you can see that this is flat, and this is weakening. So the reason that the Aussie dollar, American dollar is moving lower is not because we have a strong American dollar, it's because we have a weak Australian dollar relative to the American dollar. Okay, so now we'll have to wait and see what happens as the strength of these currencies develops over the coming weeks. And if we have a closer look at this information, let me fatten up these lines for us. Currency line, let's put these on 5 so we get some nice fat lines. Good. And so here you can see that we have the currency strength of the Australian dollar picking up, okay, and we have the currency strength of the American dollar also picking up, but relatively flat compared to the Australian dollar, which is why we can see the Australian dollar moving higher and challenging these areas of, or potentially challenging these areas of bearish liquidity up here. Okay, so you can see that there's a very interesting story being told here. Let's have a look on the daily chart, and you can see that we have weakening American dollar, we have strengthening Australian dollar, which is going to do what? It's going to push this pair higher. Okay, and this is not just random information being showed here. This is very profound information because the software is going in and it's looking at everything that's traded against the Australian dollar and everything that's being traded against the American dollar, and it's forming an index based on a very specific algorithm. So when you see this kind of thing happening, this is a very interesting telltale story of what the future may behold. We can see as well here that we have some demand. Just here, first of all, we had this. Okay, so it was tested once, now it's been removed. The area that did it is this area of accumulation just here. So we have something here at this price point, just here. What is that? That's probably around the 60, maybe the 62.50 area. This is where we got that nice push above this high here and through this area of supply or bearish liquidity. And so price will probably have a bit of a bounce at this area because of this, okay? Good. Well, I shan't focus too much more on this. It's going to reset my charts and then move on to something else. Good. Okay, let's have a look at something else. Let's have a look at the pound American dollar. What's going on here? Let's have a look at the major strength information. What's going on? Well, you can see that we have, price is doing the same thing here. We're challenging these lows. We can't see what's going on because historically I don't have any data, but we are testing these very, very low levels in the British pound American dollar. So the strength, the difference between these two currencies' strength is reaching very, very low readings. Okay, and you can see that here we have this green line here which is telling us this, and we have the histogram poking into this area, which is telling us that we're probably going to start to see some rejection. Let me refresh the charts. There we are. So notice that we are seeing this, we're seeing slightly lower lows. We're seeing the strength of these currencies doing something a little bit different, and this is likely due to the strength of the British pound. How we have, I mean, this is flat. I think we could argue this is flat, and this is, I don't know if these are higher or lower, but it looks a little bit positive. Okay, so these lows are higher. So this low is higher than this low here. So if we have a look at the histogram, you can see this is a little bit clearer how we have the histogram that is moving up. Okay, so it lines up nicely with this one here and this one here. Kind of, so we have a low, we have another push low, we have another push low, but notice that this low did not result in a lower low in the histogram. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're probably going to see some short to mid-term runs higher from here. Okay, on the pound American dollar, what does that mean? Well, that means that you can look to engage in this currency pair for long setups. Okay, but you have to remember there's also that Brexit business going on, and of course it's going to affect the pound American dollar on a fundamental level. So I mean, looking here, this is a difficult call because there's not really a whole lot going on here. Looking at buy and sell zones, we're going to have to go to the smaller time frames to identify these. And here we can see something that might be a little bit interesting, where we have, notice as well that we do have a negative bias according to the histogram. Does that mean we can't sell? So we can't buy? It doesn't. It just means you have to be a little bit careful. So notice here that we have this bearish liquidity in here. We had something below. Let's have a look at that in just a second. So we had this, and notice that this area here was capable of removing this. Even we have a continuation pattern that is standing on top of this area here. So that's telling us that we have significant demand for the British pound at this price point here, about the 119 area. Okay, then we have this area above. We have to see what this managed to accomplish, and I don't know if it managed to accomplish anything. We do have this, which is, I mean, notice I'm focusing, we have the lows here, so we had price pull back to this area here. There's something in there. This is gone. The area that removed it is this one here. So we have something from here. Okay, so for this pair, if I was looking to sell, I'd be looking to sell at the 128 and higher area. I wouldn't be looking here because we have a liquidity void that needs to balance. So we have a price imbalance originating from this area of bearish liquidity. Price moved down, we moved sideways, we moved down, and so price has rebalanced to about this area here, and now price is continuing to drift higher. And this is expected. When you have a price imbalance like this, you'll often note that price will often return to the origin of the move, which goes back up to here. Okay, so which is roughly where this little price point is located. Okay, so I think that's what we have there. So I think that if price manages to come back down here, we could see a nice run towards the highs, depending on what happens first. If price manages to move up to here first, then we will maybe have onboarded some bearish liquidity, which could perhaps challenge this down here. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Okay, let's have a look at another one. Before we do that, let's have a look at the currency strength histogram. See what currency strength is telling us. On the weekly chart, we have a negative bias. You see the orange line is below the zero line. This is very clear when looking at this. And so, I mean, we do have a negative bias, but we also do at the same time, we have price approaching these very, very low price points. And so when price does that, normally we will revert to some kind of a mean. Okay, so if we we average the lows here, we had one here, we had one here, and then we had one here, and then we had another one here. Okay, so this one worked out nicely. Price kind of drifted lower here, and we didn't actually see the pound turn around until we actually got past this line here. Then price started to wriggle higher, and then price came down here to this area here, and then we're kind of challenging it again. Okay, so these are pretty interesting historical levels where we can expect the pound to move higher and away from this this very low reading. Okay, so let me. Okay, good. Let's have a look at the American dollar, Japanese yen. What's going on here? Well, we have a negative bias. We have price reacting at this monthly demand. We have this monthly demand that has been tested. You can see it was tested by this one here. And now price is kind of, yeah, extremely volatile between these two levels. So we tested this, price tested this area here. We came down to this area here. We tested it. And now price is kind of floating in the middle. Okay, so we look pretty range bound, but we can't really see the details on this currency pair. But what we can see is we can see that. Okay, so we do have, let's see, we do have the Japanese yen moving higher, the American dollar also moving a little bit higher, but not so much relative to the Japanese yen. So if we look at where these two overline, we had a line here. I don't know if these are lined up very well. We had another one just here. Okay, and so these kind of led to, I mean, the American dollar, Japanese yen overall moving lower. I think if we did like a best fit line, it would probably be maybe something like that. Okay, ish. Okay, and so you can see that, I mean, we have this pair moving lower. Notice here that they're looking to maybe exchange places here where we have maybe the Japanese yen that's maybe going to push higher, but we'll have to see what happens. So let's go have a look on the weekly chart and see what's going on. You can see that we had this weekly area of supply. It was tested once, now it's being tested twice. Notice again how beautiful these levels are. I mean, they're being tested almost to the pip, even on the monthly and the weekly areas, and holding for massive risk rewards. Good, so we have, this has been tested, now price tested, we retraced, we went back to the origin, so we had this price imbalance, price returned to the origin as expected, and now it left. We're moving sideways, potentially we're accumulating short positions, potentially to move price lower for maybe this area here, but we won't know until we kind of move below these lows here. If we have a look on shorter time frames, yeah, we need some areas of bullish liquidity to be removed. We don't really see that. Shorter term we have this, but then we have this as well here, but this is not demand because this did not accomplish anything, so I'm not expecting this to do anything or provide any support for the American dollar, Japanese yen. And so we are kind of challenging this. I mean, when price came down into here, but this is not demand, and so I'm thinking price will go through that, and if we do anything, we're maybe going to challenge this and maybe even go to the lows there, and this is probably where we're going to have a bounce to the 106.70 area, and then potentially move lower from there. But you can see that intraday there's going to be some opportunities in here, and I can see this because, well, number one, we have a negative bias on the strength, so we have flows moving out of the American dollar and into the Japanese yen, and we have a nice little price imbalance at that area, which we can see just here. Okay, so if we remove this area, okay, so let's mark off the areas. So we have this, we have price tested this area here, as you can see, like tested, and now price is kind of drifting sideways. We were eating the pancakes at this area of bullish liquidity demand, and then price managed to move away from this area. So this area can be moved to around this area here. This is what we have just here. Let's go to the smaller time frames again to find even clearer areas. Okay, so we have this happened below this area, and when price left, we moved up into this hourly supply, and we had a beautiful reaction there, which I think was a very nice setup. You can see that, I mean, the rectangle was drawn on the chart, 1, 2, 3, when this candle closed, and so there's plenty of time to prepare this trade as price returned to it. Again, trading in line with the currency strength. I mean, where's this currency pair going to go? Focusing on this. Well, what's above the zero line? Well, we have the Japanese yen that is above the zero line. We have the American dollar, which is below the zero line, and so we can expect this pair to move lower. And we were being told about this from here. It was already starting here, but this is unclear. We had some pretty definitive signs that we were going to move lower from about here when we started to see here, just here. Okay, so this is telling us that we are indeed going to move down. Oops, wrong drawing tool. We're going to move down from this area of quote-unquote supply. It's at least bearish liquidity, so distribution of liquidity to move prices lower. Okay, so you can see that pretty clearly by what's going on in here in the histogram. Okay, cool. Let me remove all of these. Then have a look at something else. Let's have a look at the American dollar, Canadian dollar. What's going on? Let's move to the major time frames, the weekly chart. Yeah, we had this area of monthly supply that was tested a long time ago. This is in, was it 15 or 16, I think? In 16, then price returned to it. So we had a second test, then price left. Note that we have the bias is negative for the American dollar, Canadian dollar, but we did have some issues relating to oil, and this of course affects the price of the Canadian dollar. And so this is why we've seen some incredible jumps in price here, visible even on the monthly chart. So if we have a look here, we're returning back to this area here. Now price is drifting away nicely. So we need clarity, so we go to the weekly chart. And here we can see that we have a positive bias, which is very clear. You can see pretty clearly that price is moving higher. We have all of the rectangles that are below price, many of which have not been tested. Okay, and then we have the price of the American dollar, Canadian dollar, slowly drifting higher. But note as well that we are reacting at monthly supply, and that means a lot. That means that we are potentially seeing a huge change of flows, where we see flows moving into the Canadian dollar and out of the American dollar at this price point that we've seen on the monthly chart. So looking here, again, we have to identify these areas, these price areas that price was able to consume. So we had a lovely area of supply, bearish liquidity here. We were tested once, twice, three times, and then price removed. We cut through it, we gapped through it. What area did it? Well, we have something down here. Okay, so we've got this. There's also, price gapped away from it, which is showing us that we have tremendous. So we go to the smaller time frames, the daily chart, and we look for that. And you can see pretty clearly we've got something in here. Not a lot of clarity here. So let's to one smaller time frame, the 4-hour chart. And you can see what we have. We can see here that this is probably Friday, this is a Monday open, price gapped up. Now price is looking a little bit overextended, a little bit tired, and so price is probably going to come back and close this gap. Looking at this, it doesn't look very beautiful here. You can see how price is just drifting higher. This is pretty efficient trading. Not a lot of price imbalances at this level here. And then we saw the price imbalance here. So I'm thinking the price is going to return to roughly this area here, and then maybe have a reaction, move to opposing supply, which we have here. You can see that we had this just here. Okay, so it's tested, price gap cut down through it. We have another test, and then price managed to move below it, and we have this here, which is a pretty area, and this is a result of this. We have some micro demand, test, price went through it, so we have a really nice area here. Okay, at the 14100 area, be an interesting area to look to sell, because we removed this and we managed to move below this low. We challenged this area of 4-hour demand. So we have a look on the 1-hour chart. Let's see if we can find some clarity. Yeah, this sticks out kind of nicely here. So we have this, which I like. We have something here. If we have a look below price, let's see where price could potentially go. Yeah, looking at this, we can see that, yeah, it's not very pretty, is it? Price kind of moves sideways, and then we just gapped higher. Price tried to come lower, so we have the beginning of a buy zone here. Has price been back here yet? No, we have not been back. And so I'm thinking we'll see prices return to that, or return to this level here, and then begin to onboard some shorter term buyers at this area and lower. If we scroll left, what else can we see? We can see we have to find these price points where price kind of reacts and turns around, and we have one kind of here. We've got something like a little price nodule around here. Okay, move that a little bit lower. Test, 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 test. This one is now gone. Oops. And it came from here. Okay, so you've got that. That's below. So if we go up to the 4-hour chart and have a look, you can see it just here. So the one, what is that? Come on, let me delete this one. Okay, the 13300 area. That's an interesting area because this whole jump higher is a result of this slingshot. Price went up, we pulled the slingshot back, and then we flew up north. Okay, so the 13300 area is a pretty interesting area, I think. So we'll have to wait and see what's going on when price returns to that area there. Good. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. We're running at 35 minutes. If you have any questions, please post them in the video or leave them in the Discord channel. And if you want to get updates when I publish new videos, please subscribe to the channel and hit the subscribe bell. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching.